In this recording, Toteras explores the onslaught of technology, the elite versus us peasants, and expecting your wife to cheat on you.
And it's difficult because like we're going through a very difficult understanding. The thing is we can see, just like we can see the earth being destroyed and can't stop it. We can also see the problems that man is entering into, but we can't stop it. We don't. It isn't that we can't stop. It is impossible to stop it. I mean, you're not going to stop the way the movements, the technological movements, the cybernetic movements are going. You're not going to stop that. It's these inventions now require certain other handmaidens to come to their attention. They require a different way the language to be used. They're requiring a different way for verifications to be made. Um, instant communication, instant replay, very important. All these things. The instant replay does something else now. It makes observations more accurate. It makes memory far more accurate than it's ever been. So you're developing a lot of things that are going to create problems down the road that we can't see. And the only thing that modern man has today that's in his favor is he's aggressive enough to be able to survive some heavy beatings. Like you can see with AIDS, he's very aggressive in the fact that they want more infected people to allow him to come into the country. They're aggressive. The attitude is aggressive. They're not as scared of the disease. They're aggressive in the fact that within a year or two or three or four or 10, they will have a cure. X amount of people will have died, but this dreaded scourge is over with. So the old process, the very ancient process, was to exclude the sick, right? To push them out. So they didn't know that bugs did it or what have you not did it, but they didn't know of contaminations and the rest of this new biological study. But what they knew was to get them out because the gods were unfavorable to them. Some explanation other than bugs, but did the same thing. They quarantined them. They excluded them until the epidemic was gone. And what's happened now is that the epidemic is continuing. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Everybody's getting more involved and more involved. So it shows that as there's an aggressive attitude. An aggressive attitude doesn't necessarily mean that it's aggressive toward the benefit of something. It could be aggressive to the destruction of something. Aggressiveness is aggressiveness. How it's used determines on where the culture is at the moment, right? So if you had an aggressive warrior, can you make this aggressive warrior now a peaceful civilian? Well, there's been multitude of stories written as to the attempts. The samurai was a very aggressive warrior, but was he a good civilian? The Ronis, R-O-N-I, were the samurais who had no masters anymore. They were masterless samurais. And they just roamed Japan, cutting heads off. Yeah, they practiced their swordsmanship on peasants' heads. Because it was all right in Japan to kill a peasant. Peasants had no rights at all. All this samurai, the warrior spirit, and all this crap. You're talking about all the upper echelons, right? You're not talking about the poor folk like me and you. The poor folk like me and you have always been hunted down, have always been chased about, have always been done in, their heads chopped off. We're the who? Who are we? We're nothings. And the somebody can buy his way out of it. That's what it is. He can send somebody else to do the dirty work, to do that. Now you have modern man moving into a period where, hey, he's trying to make robots to go do the dirty work. Because the dirty work now has to do with atomic fuels, contaminants, space ventures. They've just about taken apart what's here on this earth. Now they're starting to look at other things, other ways of expanding. Will they, won't they? It really doesn't make any difference, does it? I mean, wherever man goes, man goes. Whether he goes to Mars or he goes to Jupiter, still man's going. And with all the problems that he has here, he's going with the same problems. Unless they find some way to lobotomize the guy, and then he doesn't need it anymore. But the situation today is similar to the situation that was 2,000 years ago. How do you get along? How do you make it with the lady? How do you get along with her? How do you keep your family? If these things are instincts, like we said they might be, they're instinctual, then instinct is going to drive on until they find some way to tamper with that instinct. So man doesn't have any need to mate anymore. Well, he'd look at a woman naked and it wouldn't bother him no more than if he saw a fly on the wall. Insignificant to him, right? No significance at all. Couldn't remember why it was ever significant. He read it in books. He saw it in these VCR films. But he never knew why. Because he's moved out of it. It might be that they get him that far. But up to the time they get him that far, he's going to have the same problems he's always had. How to get along with the female. Am I right? But it's not just getting along with the female. It's getting along with himself. He's the creep, man. The man himself is the guy who makes all this shit. It's not the women that start the war. It's the women soothe the war. I mean, when you go as occupation, now, the thing is, what modern Americans haven't felt like us, we felt what it was like to go to a country that was occupied by us. When people bent down and just kissed our asses. Well, you could take a Japanese in Japan during occupation and kick him in the ass. Kick the fucking bloody gook in the ass and send him home running. Ah, you little bloody bastard. You say, you're lucky I don't fucking blow your fucking brains out. And there was a law there that you don't shoot the sons of bitches, you know, but you could always say that they attacked you and you shot them, because everybody was armed in occupation duty, right? Soldiers were all armed. And you could see a nation that had been beaten. And the thing that made it possible for us as occupiers not to kill the bastards, just shooting. You know, the troops that had actually fought them didn't go on occupation duty. They were like dogs that had tasted blood. They wanted to kill, man. Well, they wanted to kill. They were doing some atrocities, you know. They didn't give the Japanese a chance at all. Oh, no, man. Oh, no. Japanese did some awful fucking things, you know. You buy their Honda cars and their Toyotas, but man, they did some awful, awful things. And any soldier from that period would tell you, man, it was just horrendous. That's the way they were. They gave no quarter, they asked for no quarter. That's the way they were. A warrior class took samurai traditions and applied them to modern warfare. Probably the greatest foot soldiers in the world. They could endure anything. They could live on nothing. They were tough, man. And they intended to be tough. They cleaned out the Philippines. They did a lot of beheading. The sword, the samurai sword, was used to behead with. And the rape of Nanking is just awful. They would kill thousands of Chinese by beheading them. The officers would try their strikes, their kendo strikes. Because all of them, you know, were black belts in kendo, right? And they would take that sword and just whoop, and make spins and cut off 3 or 4 heads with, you know, just moves with razor-sharp swords. They would have mock little battles of Chinese coming at one guy with a bunch of sticks, and he would just perform a samurai thing. It was a dream come true for all these soldiers who wanted to be samurais, or who came from samurai families, you know, with their own emblem. I mean, you know, you're looking at in my lifetime, your father's lifetime, all these things went on, and people are living today that was in all this. So when the troops went to Japan, the troops that fought them, they didn't allow them to go on occupation duty. They got rid of them and sent fresh troops in there, preferably ones that didn't do any fighting. And the first thing the women did was just start screwing the occupation troops, and they cushioned the feelings. So after you screwed the woman, then you took care of her mama-san, and then if her papa-san was probably not there, he had been off the war and probably got killed, you know. But if papa-san was around or grandpa-san was around, you took care of him too, petted him on the head. And it was cheap. Everybody, the women cushioned. The women laying on their backs with their legs open cushion the conquerors so everybody don't get wiped out. Right? They keep it going, man. They keep it going. So they have a vital function, you know, female. A vital function. It might be that the female cushions us from this kind of robotization that's taking place now. It might be that the female might cushion us from the man becoming a fucking robot. He's starting to look like a robot.
I'm sure he is.
Oh yeah,
It's
everybody
different.
wears the same shoes. Everybody wears the same clothes, made by the same tailors, barbered all the same way. From the back, you couldn't tell who's who because they all got the same haircut. Very regimented in their styles. The style is regimented. Everybody really dresses the same. You don't see any difference. The casual look, everybody's got the same kind of stone ground Levi's now, you know, and Nike tennis shoes, and right, all these things all look alike. And everybody's running around being alike. And so you see, man's problems are really mounting a lot. And it's not just a response to the female. He's not just responding to the female. He's responding to the whole goddamn thing because of the election to keep these virtues that he has. Yeah. He elected to keep these virtues. Now these virtues are coming in conflict with everything around him. And they're coming in conflict again with women, but now the women don't know how to stop this. There is no way that the woman can stop this. It's become now a cultural virtue. It's become a cultural need for you to survive. I don't mean virtue by being high morals. I mean virtue in the Greek sense. Right?
That which makes you excellent.
Yeah. That's right. That's what makes you the guy on top. That's what makes you Donald Trump. See, the man today who is excellent is a celebrity. Whether in economics, whether in the movies, no matter what. It's the period of celebrities. You don't have to be real. You could be made up and be a celebrity. You don't have to be a real thing because of the way reality's put together in a 26-inch or 32-inch frame on TV or on a big 70-millimeter screen. The way reality's put together is the reality you accept. Right? That's it. Now, you know, like Lucas is making now some real animations, some real effects by using computer imaging. So this has become, you know, profound. This is the reality that you're accepting. These are the high standards. This is what you reflect against, either go above or equal or below, you know. So there's a whole different reality that's not reality, that's a made-up reality, an inventive, imaginative reality that's given to you for you to associate with, for you to become part of that reality. But that reality don't exist anywhere. It exists on dots, electronic dots, electronic magno-electrical waves. It exists in somewhere that the more scientifically prone people can sit and give you tomes and tomes of words and clarities and this and that, and they don't know what they're talking about themselves. They don't. I challenge any one of them to come with us and talk. You know, electrical engineers know so much, and yet they don't know why an electrical impulse goes from here halfway around the world, what it travels on. Or an electrical impulse goes from here to Mars. It goes like Zeno Zero, you know, but what does it travel on? What makes it go that way? They don't know. They'll never will know. They just stumbled onto something. They stumbled onto that electrons move around a vacuum. There are certain things that we have to acknowledge in modern times. Modern times means that there's certain things that must be acknowledged that we wouldn't acknowledge before. Betrayal is one of these things, and I've talked about betrayal before. You've done some readings from my work on betrayal, haven't you? Okay, betrayal. Now, what I want to say is that betrayal, without being asked the question that should be asked of me is, what do I think betrayal is its position in modern times? And I feel betrayal in modern times is a very essential part of modern man. Modern man has to be able to betray his friend if he's going to survive. Aggressiveness without the ability to betray is nothing. Aggressiveness without the ability to be duplicitous is nothing. Aggressiveness without the ultimate of being able to kill is nothing. You can take aggressiveness and modify it all you want, and still what do you have? You have aggressiveness. I want to hold that a second for me, please, quickly. Okay, Keene attributes the success of his book to his sense that we are in an epochal moment in history. All the metaphors of Western culture are starting to change. The warrior metaphor has shaped men's lives for hundreds of years. That is changing. Oh, it is? Now listen to the contradiction, right? Follow me? Yeah. That is changing, but it will take another 100 years. The code we have to break is that of the warrior psychic. Keene, like Bly, regards the recent Gulf War as a return to old and discredited metaphors. More a problem of George Bush's unresolved male identity. Man. Okay. In conversation, Keene recalls how he wrestled competitively in graduate school and that his matches were aggressive, never hostile.
Aggressive, not hostile.
Yeah. Aggression, he says, is focused energy, not enmity. He wants men to be able to be aggressive without being hostile. That is the focused, if occasionally fuzzy, mission of his book. Fire in the belly is as much about being human as being a man. See, aggressiveness without being hostile. Aggressiveness by its very nature is hostileness.
It's total.
How total it is depends on how well you're trained. You know? Like we said, you could be aggressive, but you got to be able to back it up. If you can't back it up, what's the use of being aggressive?
Right.
Aggressiveness is a very necessary thing in modern times. You can't survive, like we said before. You can't survive without it. But along with it, aggressiveness, you have to have the ability to betray. To be aggressive means to want to win. You can't be aggressive with no purpose in mind. Aggression has a purpose in mind. If you're aggressive without a purpose, we said, you're a sociopath. If you're aggressive with a purpose, you're an ambitious, industrious, good American. We said that. That's an important thing that we're saying. That's what's being said. That's what's being said. Betrayal must be read and thought of in that sense as part of the package of modern man. Right? Duplicity has to be looked at not as something to be scorned at, not something that we try to avoid, not something that is lurking its ugly little head to get us. It is something that is expected. And since you expect it in all of society, you expect your wife to betray you. You do, you expect her to. Not to expect her to do that is to miss the whole point of modern existence, man. Right? It's just that you have to lessen the sting of the betrayal. You can't, you can't never tell her too much. You can't never really trust her all that much. Man, hey, I'm talking from experience. About $60,000 worth of experience. You say, that's not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money for somebody who don't have that kind of money. Right? It's a lot of money for somebody who had to work for his money. Yeah. Right? And how did that come to be? Very simple. Allegiances change. Allegiance change. Today I have allegiance toward that woman. Tomorrow, for some fucking reason, I have allegiance to another woman. Allegiances change, and so does people's attitudes toward each other change.
There is no long term anymore.
No? There is no long term because people become aware of their change. You can see that because the decades change. Their names change. The nomenclature of the decade changes, and somebody summarizes the decade. At the end of the decade, there's always somebody who gives it a summarization to tell you what the decade was about. And since decades change, the people in the decades change with it, don't they? So if you can change within a decade, it takes about that time to get a family started, a house going, and enough bills to make it worthwhile for somebody to do you in. Enough property has been acclaimed, within that period of time. So that's what we want to look at when we're looking at that. You see, what we want to look at is, it's not, what this is saying is what? What this is saying is, now, with that in mind, right?
We're distorting out a little bit.
Am I right?
Yeah. It does, man. It's all the elements already laid out.
Yeah, they're laid out in the piece. That piece is waiting now to be added onto. See, all these pieces have hooks to them, waiting to be hooked on with the next piece. They're just like Lego toys. And all of them are waiting just to be hooked on, right, to the argument. And we're plotting through the arguments now, First arguments, we established the virtues. We compared the virtues. We did a lot with them. And then we saw their aspects. There are different parts to them. And now we're looking at the upper level. We're looking at betrayal working. We're looking at duplicity. We're looking at friendship. We're looking at a myriad of subjects that are going to keep appearing in these relationships that modern man is having with himself. I mean, what's interesting today is that one has gotten to the point where he has a relationship with himself, Not just with other people. Since relatives have become minor nowadays, the concept of relationships has taken on a different meaning. You don't at one time relationship was with somebody that you were related to, and now it's somebody that you are in association with. For what reason the word has changed? It's become more convenient. That's what it is. It's become more convenient to say that I've got something going more than just pooling or going to work in a carpool. And more than that. We have a realization that now man does have modern virtues. How do we know that? Because of the new gods as he's created. He's created new people to populate the heavens. These people are corporate giants, the Fords, the Rockefellers. These are the stars in the sky. If they were to name, in the future, if they were to name stars, constellations, they would name them Ford constellation and Rockefeller and A.P. Giannini and Mellon and these people, because these are the modern men that found ways to become gods. Because see, the classical Greek knew about the mortal god too. He knew about the immortal god, the Olympians, and then there was the gods that could die and then come back again. Right? There was mortal gods. They could taste mortality. So these gods here are Theulides, little gods, minor gods. Yeah. But nevertheless, in our modern situation now, they are our major gods, men of power. So we examine that men do have virtues. And in these virtues, we have to examine also as to what kind of man possesses it. The man that possesses these virtues, what does he look like? Is he one of these corporate giants? Did he have them virtues? If he has them virtues, then it's conclusive, it should be conclusive that this is the standard that men should measure themselves by. Right? If we can find that the minor gods, the mortal gods that were created from our society, from our civilization, we don't know of, we know of Einstein because he's probably more important being publicized than he is as any scientific. He's just as exciting, I guess, as Larson's cartoons are, in the fact that they're very imaginative. And the word absolute for him became the word relative, because you could bring about other little theories. In one of his essays that he wrote, do you have to be a physicist to understand physics? Absolutely not. When you're a physicist, you try to prove that the thoughts that you have are the thoughts that are. You understand?
Right.
And then how do you prove this? With the accepted tools given to you to prove anything. A mathematical problem, it's not really the solution, it's how you got the solution that's important.
The proofs are important. As a matter of fact, by using these computers, you lose that ability of handling the proofs. Nevertheless, that's what does this man look like? He looks like Rockefeller. He looks like Ford. What kind of is this man that he looks like? He looks like a man who's loaded with ambition. A man who's not scared. A man who's a leader. A man that can stand up for what he believes. A man that can do it. That sounds to me like the healthiest kind of guy. Mm-hmm. More schools of psychology have made their bucks on selling that thought than the school that says, lay back. Be scared of everything. Don't try a fucking thing. Be careful, man. Be reasonable. The law tells you that. The reasonable man standards in the law says, hey, a reasonable man in the law does nothing at all because it could be foreseen that his actions would bring about that causation and bring about that damage. Right? So the reasonable man in the law doesn't make a move. He lays in bed and doesn't budge. Right? So by saying that, the man that we believe in is a man who is lawless. Because the law says the reasonable man standard. And the man who can do things is the exact opposite of the reasonable man. Yes. He's not a reasonable man. He is a man who has been programmed, his ambitions have been programmed. He's aggressive enough to be able to put them forward, to put them to work. He has that kind of leadership to get other men with him and on and move off with them. Hey man, one of the most popular people in the third world is, you know who he is? Iacocca. Iacocca. Yeah, right. If I was to ask you, as an American, who was one of your finest poets? Who was one of your finest poets? A poet that, showed the sensitivity of using this language, of using this frame and reference of thought, of using this part of the world, of using this climate, of using everything. Would you recommend to me that I could read?
I'd have to go back a couple of
And you're
years.
a man of education. You're a man of knowing. Who would you recommend?
Whitman or Robert Frost.
No, I'm talking about some contemporary, some man of the present.
I can't think.
These new gods that I tell you about are contemporary men.
Contemporary poets.
No, these gods are contemporary people. They're people that within the memory of men who are alive today. These billionaires, these Rockefellers, these people that represent this man. The virtues of modern man are represented and embodied in these type of people. In the Rockefellers, in the Fords, in the Mellons, like I said, the five giants, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts. These people who just from their bootstraps they raised themselves up and exemplified not the Protestant ethic, the Protestant prophecy that a man who elevates himself is a man of God.
Ted Turner is one I can think of.
Ted Turner.
Or even Don Trump.
No, Trump inherited a lot of his money.
Oh, I see.
And the other guy came from silver shoes too.
Oh, did he?
They weren't poor boys, They had money passed off into them, inheritance that was protected for them.
I see.
And they went on, but your modern man has been exemplified by these winners. So you can't tell me that these aren't virtues, that people aspire to. A virtue is something that people aspire to. How a man ought to be.
Yeah, but if what you're saying is that this standard is lawless, then to be this person is to be a criminal. So
to be the reasonable man is the exact contradiction as to be the aggressive man, as to be the leadership man, as to be the salesmanship man. You can't tell me that you're going to sell anything without somewhere along the line puffing up or downgrading your product. Right. You're not going to tell me that's not going to take place. I mean, whether it's selling yourself or, a pair of boots. So, I mean, that kind of fairy tale that people believe in, that self-interest isn't involved in the greatest of prayers, right? The greatest invocations, all have that self-interest in them. One should pray
Yes.
to God with, I don't need you, God. I have a wallet. It's filled with money. I don't need you. When I'm sick, I don't need you. I go to a doctor. I pay him. He makes me well. If he can't make me well, you can't either. I might be able to buy immortality. I might be able to challenge you somewhere. This is my invocation to you. Be careful. I'm on the lookout for you. If you are around, you can hear me. Give us a buzz. These are modern prayers, not thank you for.
Yeah.
You haven't given me shit. The modern God has not given you crap. That's the first thing you have to understand. The old God gave you something. Modern God has given you nothing at all. Modern God has not given you the protection of the apiron. The apiron, the boundless.
Uh-huh.
The apiron, the thing that the classical Greek and the pre-classical Greek more so felt that everything that could ever be, everything that would ever be is in the apiron. It's that which you would never experience. You could never experience. It was unexperienceable. Right?
Mm.
It was that kind of thing in the feelings. Because terms that belong in a certain period also have the feelings of that period. The feelings, the awareness toward the concept. So I could tell you today, rightfully so, it's become a very popular word. How you doing, motherfucker? And you know I'm your friend, right? But then I could use the same word with another tone in it and immediately there'd be trouble, right?
Right.
You know, fuck your ass, man. You motherfucker. So the tones are hard.
Yeah.
They hit, they punch. So with the tones, you can take a word that could be crucial in one thing and make it benevolent in another. Right? So the ability of that period of time to be able to see how things actually feel, the words connected, how they feel, how they make you feel. When we say apiron now, we have no concept, the same concept that the classical Greek had of the apiron. Because the Greek has other words for meaning for the whole thing. Pan, P-A-N. Pan, right?
Mm-hmm.
All, but pan is all that. It has limitations to that pan. Apiron is all of it too, because it's that without experience. It's unexperienceable, man. So during the high point of the sophistic thought, the sophist thought, during that period, the high point of that period is that the Greeks started believing that man is the measure of all things. The sophists took a thought that was prevalent in Greek thinking at the time and made it part of their school. Gorgias didn't come up with the thought that man is the measure of all things. That was when, in Delphi, the statements in Delphi is know thyself, right? Know thyself was it was like a riddle. It really is a riddle.
Oh, it wasn't a command?
No. It's a riddle. It's a riddle because how can man know himself? In relationship to what? In relationship to gods? I don't want to do what the gods do. I don't want to be like Zeus. Iu o Zeus Vasilevs tapanda horizon de onon from the, oh Jesus Zeus, man, what a hard night this is. I mean, daybreak will never come. He uses God as exclamations, right? God becomes exclamatory. He's at that point, during the point of Aristophanes. He's at that point with God. So now, how do I know myself? If I don't know myself with God, who's been reduced to a babbling idiot, if I can't, in relationship to what am I going to be in relationship to? How can I know myself? Huh? Gnosis. How is this to be? You see the problem now that's created? If knowing myself, then that means that I am the measure of all things. And the thought pan metron ariston comes out. The mean. No excess. The mean. But the mean is measurable. The Greek is starting now to develop measurable ideas. which becomes really the father of modern science, doesn't it?
Mm.
When you can measure something, you can make an observation, you can make a hypothesis, you can set up a test for it, you can draw some axioms from it. It's measurable, it's comparable. In relationship to what? What is the reference? Know thyself is a riddle.
Wow.
Know thyself. How do you know thyself? In relationship to what? It can't be in relationship to myself.
Yeah.
It's just like playing an earnest game of chess with myself. How? How? How can I develop that kind of doubleness? That kind of doubleness necessary that I can do that. How can I know myself? Well, you have to create some kind of doubleness. The Greek word for it is diplosis, which means duplicity. So doubleness and duplicity are meaning the same thing if we allow them to mean the same thing. Doubleness would be the face of drama, laughing, crying. Two-facedness would be still a face that one puts on, covering a mask. The same thing as a pilot uses when he leaves the atmosphere. He needs a mask to survive, doesn't he? And the actor needs a mask to survive. And so does modern man need a mask to survive. So modern man by his very nature is duplicitous. Not that he has that old connotation of being sinful, deceitful, cunning, hateful, two-facedness, which really, by argument, becomes the argument of the devil. Because diabolo in Greek, diabolo, means in one thing to give an argument, an accuser. He's an accuser, right? But an accuser is also, accuser, fine. But if you extend that word further, you say accuser, how does an accuser work? I mean, what is the nature of accusation, right? The nature of accusation is, this is what is right and what you did is not. Right? Or can the accuser be in the positive sense? This is what supposed to be and you did more. It might be doing more is punishable. Like on a railroad, if you went faster than your time schedule, you were in trouble, man. You could be late, but you could never be ahead. Right? So you couldn't go further. Because there are certain situations that to go further are going to create problems, you know. Another train's coming by that way. Right? So the accuser, the word diabolo means accuser. But accuser, to be an accuser, you have to be also two-faced to be an accuser. One, you must know one face and pair of eyes must look at that which is, and the other look at that which isn't. Not both can do that. Not both can do that. You have to have twos and twos. You have to have one face. You can't see the east and the west at the same time, can you?
No.
Huh?
No, you can't.
Nor could you view the Apiron as a poet and then turn around and look at Ealing, which is, you know, the material world. At that one instant, the man was a poet. At that instant, between that which was unexplainable, unexperienceable, and all that required all explanation in order to exist. The world of the reality of the sense requires explanation in order for it to exist. It has to have purpose in your mind. Nothing in your environment is without purpose. And you must know its purpose. You know the purpose of the red light, the green light. You know the purpose of a policeman. You know the purpose of 9/11. You know the purpose of all that is in your society. The same as a more primitive man, a man who doesn't live in a civilized situation of buildings and streets, sewers, lives in the wild. His territory is as well recognizable and purposeful to him as yours is. to the last root, to the last berry. His is more complex. He has more things to have to think about. He has more things to have to know about. He has to know the habits of all the birds. He has to be a biologist. He has to be a zoologist. He has to be a physicist. He has to be a hydraulic engineer. He has to be a structural engineer. He has to be an architect. He is all them things, and then we call him primitive. If you were to transport yourself to another time in the past and you told him what was here, could you build any of the fucking things that are here?
No, you couldn't demonstrate.
You could never
any
reproduce them, could you?
None of it.
You could not mimic them. The strongest part of a human being is his ability to mimic, and you could not mimic it. Why? Because it is artificial. Because it is artificial. It is the invention and the manufacturing of man's ideas, of his schemes, of his morphe, of his topography, of all that. It's the manufacturing of man's ideas. It has nothing to do with man himself. It has only to do with man's ideas. And what about the rest of the guy? You mean man is merely an idea? I can't buy that. I can't buy that. For the fucking sake of the argument, I can't buy that. I don't give a shit what. I just can't buy that that man is just that mechanical. Is man that purposeful? I don't know. Does he have a purpose? To a certain point he does, to breed and have kids. That's his main purpose. Next purpose, to survive. Now he has purposes to survive. So the purposes are really limited, you know.
Aren't those almost functions?
Huh?
Aren't those almost functions? In the sense of, I mean, they're very physical things.
Yeah, there's arguments concerning functions. Yeah, as to whether something is a function of. Whether these are actually function and make society possible. Because you see, there's certain needs that the human being has, and these needs, the bigger and more populated he gets, he has to learn how to, all these people live in a certain tribe. Well, that was taken care of in the past, because only so many people could live within a certain area if they were going to be hunters. And then more people could live together as they become agriculturally bound. But then agriculture also made the city possible. And the city, of course, created the problems of a city. Which is a whole philosophical world of questions without no answers. I mean, what creates slums? What creates urban blight? You know, what creates poverty in the city? What creates crime in the city? What creates, you know, how is congestion? Does all this make up a new kind of man called mass man? M-A-S-S. Does it create? The Spaniards were interested. The Spanish had an interest in mass man. What's the concept of mass man? What's the outcome of mass man? He moves in. This morning out at 980 Maze, the interchange in Oakland, it was a parking lot. There's absolutely all cars go through that maze, you know. And a truck overturned somewhere and down there, and the whole thing was just fucking one big parking lot. The Highway 101 was one big parking lot. The city is one big parking lot. The whole fucking world is turning into one big parking lot. Developments of man, modern man, he has to cope with all this shit. Plus, I mean, modern man has to cope with all this. Plus, cities that have problems that have been created over the fact that they were cities. There were cities in the past, like Rome had 1 million to 2 million. Hard to say, there some million, Varro says 1 million, 2 million. There's multitude of, but anyway, it existed, let's say for the sake of argument, 1.5 million, Rome. So that means they had to have sewers, heating, shops, grocery shops, meat shops, every fucking thing you have here, because the people who are living in the city have now been disconnected from their rural life. And the farm makes the city possible. So now it grows it and brings it to the city while you sit in the city and do other things. All right, so we've created now this different beehive that we bring food from here, from point A to point B. They take the food, they eat it, they live, they police themselves, and then their waste now that comes from there must be piped out of the city back out toward the rural man, into the rural man's rivers, into all these things that makes it all possible for him to feed them. Right, so the city, what it means to say is the city and city life and civilized life is so impersonal that it disallows for any other view than the view of self-interest and short-term investment. So that one would call city thinking. Now when we're looking at modern man, city thinking seems to be what modern man has as an everyday suit of mental clothes, right? City thinking, which is self-interest, short-term, nothing long-term, association with people short-term, how long, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Such indifference that no hopes in the whatever. It's a term without any hopes. Oh, whatever. It's not like saying I hope forever, or Jesus, I hope it ain't quick, or I wish it was quick. It has no definiteness to it, right? Because modern man cannot afford to have definiteness. Because definiteness beyond the deal that's being made merely means to bring in extraneous information that can only confuse the deal.
Yeah.
So the more you can cut off like
Right,
that,
right.
the more you can cut off, the more questions are going to be asked. See, now modern man, because of all his, this is good, it keeps me oiled. A modern man, because of his need for getting things done, man, you know, his need for getting things done is so demanding that the way we're doing this is in the modern man's way. No notes, no shit, no nothing. In and out, going. Somebody toots the horn, gotta go, bye, man.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
come in. Wow, we're not there. I mean, zoom. Here, have some dope. Boo, zoo, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, look over the clock, gotta go, boom, boom.
That's modern man.
That's right.
So the way we're laying the thoughts out, the way we're describing ourselves is know thyself in relationship to what? Know thyself in relationship to what? In relationship to classical man, let's say, for instance, in his way. But it's so far gone that it's hard really, without really imaginative, intensive study, to really get the feel of what man felt like in the classical times. He felt different than we do today. And it's hard to really feel it. Me being of that area, my family being from there, me being from there, makes me feel like I should know what Greeks felt like then. But it's only imaginatively that I do, like a little child who daydreams of being with his toy soldiers, you know, in Waterloo, leading the charge of General Ney's cavalry, right?
And for you, it was sitting in the Trojan horse, waiting to go inside the gates.
Probably, yeah. Senses of high orders of classical imagination. So, to require that of someone, because other people are imaginative of the hobbits.
Yeah.
I found that a very difficult work to read because I couldn't get myself into that. You have to put yourself into it. It's not that the work is good or bad or indifferent, it's just that you can't appreciate something unless you can put yourself into it. So rather than going to the past to see how they felt, we'll just say that they had certain standards of conduct that they believed in. And these standards of conduct required the following. And then we look at the standards that are required of today and see that we also have standards. And without these standards being adhered to, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, not only that guy that looks like Icahn or Rockefeller, but the average Joe in the street. Anybody who's here has to conform to these things, man.
Oh, yeah.
Or you don't make it.
Oh, you don't make it. Now, is making it important? Yes. Making it is very important, because making it is the word for success. Success is an important word today. Tomorrow, if it's not, that's all right. Tomorrow we'll have another word for it. But today is the day that the word success has the term to it. Now the thing is not to get rid of all these things. The thing is to be able to enjoy your life while knowing you're duplicitous, while knowing you betrayed your friend, of not having to go through any guilt, of not having to rationalize it, of realizing that this is the way the game is played today. And it's ethically correct. It's ethically proper for a doctor to bilk his patients, because he has the whip in his hand, he has the prescription pad at his elbow, he has the information in his head. It's your turn in the barrel, as the old sailors used to say, tonight. So there was a little knot hole in the barrel, and somebody got in the barrel. They locked the barrel up, and the old sailors would screw them. See? And usually apprentice seamen or nippers. Nippers were the guys who went into the forward holds of the old sailing ships and put the chains in on top of each other, the links of the chains as the anchor was being hauled in. And they would put the nippers, little guys, and these links would be big, but they the only guys that could crawl in there and fold them back and forth so they would stack right. Sometimes the poor little buggers would get caught with that and just get crushed to death, you know. And you could only wash the anchor at the next place, because you weren't going to unhaul the anchor again and drop it. Life was hard, man. Life was hard, and life today is hard another way. It's not hard like that anymore. It's hard another way. So it's somebody's turn in the barrel, though, sometimes during his life. You don't have to be today or tomorrow, but somewhere along the line. So it's all right, though. It's just the way things are. Things change, but only at the right time do they change, when change is time to change, when it becomes visible. It's changing every day. Every day is changing. Like every day I find out more and more about the dialysis scam. More and more. Today I found out a lot of information, you know. A lot of information. I mean, they buy bags for $5 and they sell them for $800. A bag of dextrose, man. Yeah, a bag of water. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, rip-off up the butt, man.
Wow.
Oh, rip-offs. You have no idea the rip-offs that are going on, man. Rip-offs. Do you know that the sick industry has become one of the greatest industries in the United States? Being sick is what the country wants you to be. Being sick. That's where the money is at. Being sick. I mean, you go to a doctor. That's nothing. The doctor's visit is cheap. Well, if he charges you $200, that's cheap. It's what comes after. What comes after, when they put you in the hospital, when they start charging you 10 grand a day, when they, a doctor you've never seen charges you $3,000, where a bill is given to you for $1,228,000. I mean, these are, you say, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So the industry, modern industry, one of the industries that we have now is sick people industry. We don't manufacture steel anymore. Why? We have to manufacture sick people. We just let them get sick, and we tell these guys, keep them alive. When they could keep people alive, that's when the money started to be made. It's in keeping people alive that the money is being made at, man. Not keeping people healthy. Not a fucking dime is being spent on that. Nothing is being spent on preventative medicine.
It's scoffed at.
Oh man, that's not where the money's at. The money is in maintenance. Maintenance, man. Keeping the people alive. In the maintenance, life maintenance. That's where the big bucks are at, man. That lady today told me, she says, that bag of 5,000 cc's, he says, cost this place less than $5. She says, you're going to pay $800 for that bag. That's what she said.
That's incredible. It's absurd.
No, it's not. It's disproportionate, but
It's
not
disproportionate.
Mm-hmm. Disproportionate in what?
The manufacturing cost versus profit.
I mean, what? Nobody says any limits on profit.
It's true. The rules of America make as much as you can.
Profit is profit. I mean, you know what? In relationship to what, you see?
Yeah, right.
See, when that son of a bitch came out with the word relative and took away the word absolute, that's all that fucker did. The rest of that crap is all bullshit, you know.
Einstein?
Yeah, it's more propaganda than it's actuality.
So you could say then that the classical man and his conduct was absolute.
Yeah.
Where we're relative to everything.
Relative, right.
But we don't. The only standard we have, since we don't have any standards, it must be ourselves and our own judgment.
To the Greek, the absoluteness was that man was the measure of all things. That was the absolute to the Greek. There was no other way of looking at the universe. It set the standards for all times. It's up to just now. Man looked at the heavens as man looking at the heavens. He looked at life on earth as shit. Only he had meaning, so he could exploit it. Man became very exploitive. The more primitive people weren't exploitive because they knew that if they exploited it, they would die. The lessons of life were right there. We lost that through getting city thinking. The city's driven that out of us. It's so artificial, you know, like children in the city don't know where, they think milk comes from Safeway. It does. But they don't know that Safeway is the distributor of the milk and not the cow. See, some way that comes from the back. The children see the guy in the back filling the racks of milk.
Right.
And the milks are in bottle, and they just say, well, the man in the back. Then they grow up like that.
Right.
City kids don't know that fucking cows make milk or chickens lay eggs. They just go buy the egg. And that's all. The meat's not a cow or a bull or a calf or something. It's just a piece of meat with parsley wrapped in cellophane on a cardboard plate, you know. So I mean, all these things are detached from where they come from. And they're all by themselves, here, there, everywhere. Modern man don't want to know about where things come from. He wants to know only that it's there. He don't want to know why his fucking car runs. All he wants to know is, how do I run it?
Yeah. And that it'll run when he needs it to run.
Yeah, I'm going to go take driving lessons at Sears Point for $1,000 to learn how to, you know, go around skidding corners and become like that, Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
They want that. That's what modern man wants. He doesn't want to know why things are the way they are because they're too complex.
Yeah. Right.
You look under the hood of a new engine, you couldn't straighten that out. And I've changed pistons in the middle of the night with no lights. Pull the piston out, man.
Jesus.
Drop the pan, right? The piston busted. Drop the goddamn pan. The rod's broken. Disconnected the fucking rod. Shoved it to the side. Locked the bastard up. Took the head. No, we had to take the head off, man.
Yeah.
Took the head off. Took it off. Got the rod out of the bastard. Put the fucking head back in again. And got home, man, like that. Where 280 is now, way up in the hills up there. Oh, you couldn't do that with an engine today.
No, you couldn't.
That was an old fucking Chevy. You know, you couldn't do that today. You could take them fucking things apart with a goddamn crescent wrench. But they became complex. They still do the same thing, but in a very complex manner. Because the relationships of the parts to each other have changed as to what their functions are going to be. But they have to now watch emissions. They have to get more power out of 4 cylinders. They have to use fuel efficiently. They have to tune up and measure up, right? So the functions in modern time, for modern times to survive, is you got to tune up. You got to have it right at the cutting edge. You got to be right on it. You can't be off of it. And how you can be on it is you have to take 12-point programs on how to be more aggressive, on how to be a greater leader, on how to be able to sell yourself better and your product. Until pretty soon, these are the necessary fucking items of society. Without them, I don't think society can survive in modern times. Follow me?
Yeah.